name. In fact, it is a very heated debate that started on Friday. One of the ladies brought out and said, why should we be dropping our husband's name? And when I brought out this issue and told her that in Islam it is haram, and she was like, oh mashallah, you people, you have taken care of everything. You are not supposed to drop your father's name. For sake of legality and documents, add a third name. It's allowed. But ud'uhum li'abaihim, call them with their father's name. Only Isa alayhi salam is called with his mother's name. Why? Because we know he had no father. And on the day of Qiyamah, people will not be called out with their father's name. People will not be called out with their father's name. They will be called out with their mother's name. That is why these people who do suhoor, sihr, not suhoor, sihr, they ask you for your mother's name, your grandmother's name on your mother's side. They know. The reason why you are called with your father's name, one of the magistrates, a very close friend of mine, she told me, why is it you are not called with your mother's name? I said, the mother is known. When you are giving birth, we know it is yours. That one cannot be hidden. But the father, you know who the father is. I said, Shaykh, you must say, yes, because the Arabs, when the Prophet ﷺ declared his nubuwah, they said, and the ayat of Quran also says, يَعْرِفُونَهُمْ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُمْ. They know this is a prophet, a real prophet, the way they know their children. The Arab says, we can even doubt. Why? Because we don't know whether this child is ours or not. We had no DNA at that time. We have more confidence in his prophethood than in this child being ours. So that is why the child is called with the father's name, so as to prove parentage. With the mother, she is the one who is carried for 9 months. Everyone knows she is the one who is given birth. So there is no reason for that. It's not a matter of discrimination. But on the day of Qiyamah, they'll be called out with their mother's name. The reason, so na'udhu billah, thumma na'udhu billah. If any woman got the child out of wedlock, Allah will still hide her shame. Allah will not reveal her shame. Yes, she will be punished for zina if she has not done tawbah. But Allah will not reveal. Look at how haya, even Allah sees haya. So when it comes to the chastity of a person, respect it. In some of our customs, during marriage, they put a white sheet and the women, some wait outside. In some customs, the women are there watching you do it. And then if the blood comes out, they go out with the sheet and say, oh, she's a virgin. Who told you virginity is lost through intimacy only? First and foremost, Islam in a hadith or is da'if. The Prophet says that if you doubt the chastity of a woman, not the virginity, the chastity of a woman, divorce her without making noise. Do not demean her. For all you know, she might have been molested. You never know. We have got animals out there who are molesting 5-year-old children, 4-month-old children, 60-year-old grannies. There are animals out there. The rape victims mostly, they feel disgusted. They don't even come forward to report. They should not feel that way. Because sometimes society condemns the victim and says, because you dressed in such a way, 2 wrongs do not make a right. Even if she had done a wrong and dressed indecently, that does not give you a right to rape her. So, when it comes to virginity, it can be lost through cycling, horse riding, heavy periods, old age, just the human broken from a fall, disease. If you doubt the chastity, let her go in peace. Don't go looking for virginity. That is haram. So those customs that are doing it, try to make sure you abstain from it. Remove it from the customs. You are looking for the virginity of a girl. What about the boy? Do you even know about his virginity? Or do you know about his chastity? Virginity is not a gift. It is in Jannah, whereby it will be applauded. Yes, in one of the hadith, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, when he got married, and the Prophet Muhammad saw some za'faran on his clothes. And some riwayah say it was lipstick of that time, some color. And he asked, did you get married? He said, yes. He said, is it a maiden? He said, no, it is an old lady. He said, you should have married a maiden so as to enjoy intimacy. He said, I did not marry for intimacy. I married her so she could become a mother to my sisters. In old age, sometimes you find your mother has passed away or your father has passed away. And then this poor man or this poor lady cannot get married a second time. Why? Because the children are like, why do you need marriage at this time? In old age, marriage is not for intimacy, it's for companionship. That old man, even if you are close to him, there are times he needs someone who is intimate, who can listen to his inner feelings. There's times when she has an itch somewhere you cannot even touch. So when you find your father has widowed or your mother has been widowed, don't prohibit them from getting married another time. Yes, definitely he or she cannot take your father or your mother's place. That is definite. But they need companionship. When my mom passed away, a lot of the people started talking and said, no one can take my mother's place. But he needs companionship. He should get married. So these are the reasons. During old age, people don't marry for that. Abdurrahman ibn Auf did not marry for intimacy or for playing around. He wanted someone to look after his sisters because they were orphaned at a very young age. So there are different reasons. The Prophet Muhammad married 9 wives. And some of the Western media, na'udhu billah, say, oh, this guy was a, na'udhu billah, thumma na'udhu billah, sex maniac. He did not marry any virgin except Aisha. All the rest were widows or divorcees. You know why? Because this woman who has already enjoyed the pleasure of sex, who has already seen intimacy. For a virgin, if she is not married even until death, because she has never seen that pleasure, chances of her doing illicit things are very minimal. But someone who has already enjoyed this field, it becomes a satr, a aura. You are safeguarding her against illicit sex. Sauda rida anha, at a very old age, when she no longer needed intimacy, the Prophet was ready to divorce her. She told the Prophet Muhammad, my days I will give to the other wives, but don't divorce me, let me stay in the household of the Prophet. So why did she need him? It was just sort of to show that when a divorcee or a widow is married, it is to safeguard her from any haram. This is a woman who has already enjoyed that field. She is on that playing field. She has memories. She might slip. The other reason is during that time, most of the women, there are only 2 ways of fending for themselves, either through prostitution or dependency on a man. Very few ventured into business. So we should look at all these things. The Prophet did not marry for intimacy. He hardly needed that at the age of 60. At the age of 45, he hardly needed that. He used to always remember his first wife, Aisha, Khadija radhiallahu anha. And he had a maiden, Aisha, to play around with. Why did he need all these other wives? It was because to bring a strong bond between the clans and also to show others that widows and divorcees are supposed to be safeguarded. So marry widows, marry divorcees, don't just go looking for maidens. Especially those who say matna, thulatha or ruba'. Go for widows and divorcees, then we'll know your matna and thulatha or ruba'. Go for a woman who has already enjoyed that field and then try to satisfy her, then you'll know you're a man. Don't go for maidens and say, oh, I'm a man because I've got 4. That is not manhood. Manhood is whereby you can take care of 4, you can take in a woman who is divorced and widowed and still satisfy her and keep up. Because in the narration, Aisha anha was reporting to the Prophet Muhammad about women, and in one instant reported about a divorcee, a woman whose husband was very good to her, but due to some circumstances he divorced her. And the Prophet said in the end of the hadith, Aisha, I am for you like that husband was for that woman, except I will not divorce you. Divorce is a curse. Another thing, women talk a lot. If I brought that hadith here, I will take nearly 15 minutes just to go through the mutun only. Imagine the Prophet listening to Aisha for 15 minutes without saying a word. Women like to be listened to. Women like attentiveness. Women like to be complimented. And for the women, I tell them, don't hurt the ego of your man. A man, however imp he is, however weak he is, but his ego is his greatest pride. If you want to make a man feel proud, pamper his ego. And if you want the attention of a woman, listen to her, even if she is talking about things that do not even interest you. Give your children and your wife time. And time does not mean that on weekends you take them out for a picnic and you say, oh, that was time. That is not time. Time is whereby you sit with the children, you sit with your wife, ask them about their day, know how your children are doing. And these children are growing up so fast that before you know it, they are gone. And the moment you give them this attention, when they grow up into teenage, they will come to you with their problems. But when you ignore them with their small problems, when they are small, when they have big problems, they'll say, Papa never listens to us. They'll just go and look for advice in wrong places. Then you'll come to me and say, Sheikh, this boy is disturbing me. Ash-shababu nisful junun. Youth is half madness. Why? Because a young man, when he grows up, body-wise, he feels he's a man. But when he's acting childish. So the parents are usually concerned, how do I treat this person? He's looking big, but he's acting childish. So now you as a parent are sort of confused. And the child is more confused than you. Because he wants to be treated and respected because now he's grown big. Yet, what he's doing is what the 5-year-old is doing. So you are also confused and he's also confused. So make sure you have that bonding with the child from the day he's born. And in Islam, there is usually what the English say a godfather. Al-Hulu. In one of the narrations, there was an instance whereby after divorce, the small child was supposed to be separated from the mother. And the Prophet Muhammad refused and said that the saliva of a mother is sweeter than the sweetest honey in the world. It's called hulu. That maternity usually is sweeter than paternity. So when your child is born, have the maternal uncle or the maternal auntie to be the godfather or the godmother. He might be your age mate. But as this child grows up, during teenage, they rebel. And the rebellion is usually against authority, not against you. It is not that he doesn't like you. But because you have asserted authority, he wants to feel that he is in authority. So when you have your age mate giving him the same advice that you will give him, he will listen. But when you tell him, he will look at you and say, this one is coming as an order, as a demand. He will not listen. So sometimes you have to play with the psychology of the child. You find he's doing wrong, ignore it. Call his Munni godfather, his maternal uncle or his maternal auntie, and tell them he is doing such and such. And when he calls him and tells him, Abdullah, I heard today you did this. Oh, sorry uncle, I did not know it was wrong. Look at how he'll apologize. But when you tell him, he will look at you and he will try now to either hide it or he will do it openly because he is now fighting authority. He's trying to seek his place in society. So it is not him who is wrong, it is nature. It is nature. La ilaha illallah. Sorry. Yeah. Now, Another thing is whereby you find that there is sort of a concern. Remember, we are humans, and sometimes we have different views. And then sometimes you find one party wants to force his or her view on the other one. And this sometimes leads to divorce or separation. This is now where the elders come in. That's why in Islam and in society also, marriage is a pact between two parties, not just two people. Islam does not say that you cannot do love marriage. It does not say it's haram. But it says the best option is to make sure that the marriage comes in such a way that both parties understand each other. So that when something goes wrong, the elders can come in. Usually 90% of love marriages end up in divorce. Why? First and foremost, because they started off with the physical appearance of another. So when that physical appearance changes, then the love also decreases. Secondly, in love marriages, usually the two partners do not consult with the parents. They just introduce and say, I love this person and I want to marry him. It is like sort of a demand. So the parents sometimes give in. But in the end, when things go wrong, the parents don't feel obligated. So we should try and make sure that when we enter into the blissful pact of marriage, it should be such that we should minimize any reason for conflict. We cannot eliminate it, but we can minimize it. I just want to finish off with one hadith. Yes, in this common world now, today you find that looking at the opposite sex has become common. Hardly does anyone abstain. So what do we do? Because the Prophet Muhammad says, the first arrow of zina starts from the eyesight. You look, you lust, you follow up. That is why, first and foremost, we are supposed to do a lot of istighfar. Secondly, we are supposed to try and change the environment. Today, mashallah, we see that the hijab has become very common. But on the other hand, even men are supposed to dress modestly. Don't think that the women don't look at you, they do. I have personally heard women speak about the behind of a man. Hey, it looks he's got a very nice, but they do. It's only that they are not as open as men. Islam does not say that you should wear a kanzu and a kofia and a turban. No. There is no specific form of dressing in Islam. There is riwayah, the Prophet Muhammad wore a kameez, he wore a kikoi, but there is no specific dressing for Islam. If you go into the history of Islam, when the Islamic Empire expanded, even today if you go to Kazakhstan and Turkestan and whatever, you'll find they are dressing in trousers and shirts. If you go farther, you find there are those who are dressing in shalwar and kameez. So Islam has no specific dress. What Islam says is modest dressing. You can be wearing a t-shirt and jeans, but you can be more modest than a person who is wearing a tight kanzu and all his features are seen. You can be wearing a blouse and a skirt, but you can be more modest than a woman wearing a bui which shows all her features. So it is modest dressing. Remember, it is that feature of man or women which attracts the opposite sex. And don't think it's only the men who get attracted, even the women. So don't expose yourselves with your six-pack and your shoulders and so forth. You should dress in such a way that if you ask me, you don't know whether I've got a six-pack or a tumbo pack. So you should dress in such a way that the other person should not see your physical features explicitly. So it's not only for the women, it's time for the men also to make that move. If you want to get rid of this haram, we have to make sure that we do not wear in such an attractive way that the opposite sex is attracted. And with this fitna that is going on of LGBTQ, these days even men are getting attracted to men. And it was there during the Prophet's time also. It is not that it was not there. This is human nature. But we have to make sure that we address it. Last but not least, the topic of LGBTQ. We feel it is a taboo topic. And sometimes the religious leaders shy away from it. I don't. I openly speak about it. Why? Because if you don't address it, it will not go away. And a very high-profile politician in a meeting picked up this issue with me and says, it is the right. I said, Islam does not say that they don't have rights. But let me ask you what nature does. As you grow up into teenage, the teenagers start having feelings for the opposite sex. But it is impossible for you to have feelings for the same sex. Totally impossible. The boy starts having feelings for the girls and the girls start having attraction toward the boys. But it is totally impossible for the boy to be attracted to another boy or a girl to be attracted to another girl unless they have been molested. They have been molested during their childhood or the feelings have been induced. So if you are going to induce feelings or molest a child, then it's not for the religious leaders to address this issue. It is for the children's rights activists. Let's throw the ball in their court. Because according to the law, it is illegal to have sex with a minor. So if you are going to introduce this minor to homosexuality or lesbianism, it is just as punishable by law as having sex with a minor. So it is not a religious issue. It is a child's right activist issue. So the sheikhs should not shy away from it. They should openly call on the children's activists to address this issue. Because these feelings do not come natural, they are induced. So if you are going to induce me into becoming mad, then the government can take action against you. Why? Because you are causing me to become mentally sick. Homosexuality and lesbianism is not a right, it is a mentality. In sex, usually you have feelings, you have the mood. In homosexuality and lesbianism, there is nothing like the mood. You call up the other sex and tell him, I want to do you today. There is nothing like the mood. So it is not natural. It is a sickness. We should address it. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk, wa sallallahu ala khayri khalqi Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum.